when we work with our K-12 customers, both public and private, we feel like there are a lot of there's a lot of misunderstood funding info. One of the most common things that we've run into is the understanding that there are, or just the knowledge that there are separate buckets for education enablement. So things like educational programs, applications, additional technology in the classroom, but also, to your point, connectivity and infrastructure buckets. So that's one. I was hoping you could touch on that one a little bit, as well as what you believe or what you have seen as other common misunderstandings or just misses in general in the funding.
That's such a great question, because we talk to folks every single day and they're like, I had no idea I even have funding. I think the message getting to the individual educators and the schools and districts that are out there that can participate, it hasn't gotten there. And a lot of the folks don't know. And that could be COVID related, it could be remote related. It's hard to say. But that's the biggest thing is we've called people and they've said, well, no, that's part of the general fund. And it's not part of the general fund. You have a budget, you have money, your organization has money. And that's the one thing that's been very eye-opening for me, is that folks just don't even understand what they have. Now, there's some interesting tools. I mean, SonicWall, we put together some FAQs that we send out and we help people get educated. But also the United States Board of Education, they put out a national website that's a very great resource where you can log into your individual state. You can drill all the way down to an individual school and actually find out how much money do you have in gear, ESSER 2, and these funds, and it'll help walk you through how to actually apply for those funds. Now, another thing is people don't understand, well, how do I apply for those funds? Every individual state has a state board of education. That state board of education basically oversees and controls that funding grant mechanism. So everyone's a little bit different. Some are a little easier than others, but that's how you get to that funding windows or those funding streams to help supply funds for those upgrades that are needed across the board.
Nice. And, we've definitely seen that, like I said, Cerdant works with a variety of different school districts in different parts of the country and of different sizes. And we've found, and this is the case anywhere, right? In any business, private, public, in any setting, is the more collaborative the groups, the easier path to this funding that we've seen. The school districts that have very, very close relationships, from the teachers in the classroom to the people on the technology side, the technology coordinators, to the infrastructure teams. We've put together lots of different focus groups within some of the school districts that we work with to really kind of help mediate and moderate the conversation and say, okay, what makes the most sense for everybody? What do the teachers in the classroom need to deliver, and to deliver the message both internally to the people that are back in the classroom, but also the students that have chosen to stay remote. Many school districts have spun up remote learning, obviously, because they absolutely had to, but have decided to keep it around. They've built the infrastructure for it. They've seen that it works for a certain subset of the population that has chosen to stay remote. So I really think for most of these school districts, that remote learning is here to stay. So kind of putting the infrastructure teams with the classroom teams, and obviously with the procurement side of things, the people that are doing the applying, and talking about where does the infrastructure need to be to best support what's in the classroom and outside of the classroom. I mean, those, of course, are our dream scenarios, and it's something I wish, we could replicate across all environments. But I think, at least from our perspective, that's where we've seen the easiest path forward. And I think, I obviously can't name any school district specifically, but I think one of the most innovative solutions I've seen anywhere is something that we, built with a SonicWall solution, was really kind of looking at an area that is truly underserved from a wireless connectivity standpoint and a funding standpoint, and building out the wireless infrastructure so that it could legitimately serve people coming to the building in cars to legitimately learn from their cars get a Wi-Fi signal where they otherwise could not get one at home or in their, when they live very remote and things like that. So I just really think it's kind of amazing what people have had to do with this and how they've come together to reimagine how best to take advantage of this funding.
You bring up a couple of really great points, and I really wanted to highlight a couple of things. And one is when the pandemic hit, a lot of schools and districts, they were able to spin up and do the remote learning. But the one thing that they couldn't do was secure it. That was the last thing they thought about, is securing those networks. And then the next thing you know, something very inappropriate happens in the classroom when you're doing either a hybrid model or all remote model, and somebody's doing something weird or somebody hacks in. And, we've heard about some of those situations where in a Zoom call, something inappropriate happens or whatnot. So it's great that in a lot of schools' cases, they've gone out and they've spun up that piece of it. But now they really need to take a look at security, and they really need to take a look at some of the SIPA laws that apply to this type of thing, and making sure they're compliant with that. So great call out on that. And they're able to do that now. Okay. They can secure and they can have performance. It's, in the past, people thought, oh, if it's security, I'm handcuffed, I don't have performance. Well, that's just not the case.
Right.
And that's why SonicWall loves working with Cerdant so much, is because we're working with a group of professionals that really understand and get involved with their customers and really figure out the who, what, whys, and wheres, and that puts together a solution that really is holistically right for that organization. So.
Right. Well, and that's why we love, a little bit of a love fest, going on here. But that's why we also love working with SonicWall, especially in the K-12 environment, because, no two environments are the same. Security does not exist in a vacuum. That is clear. And, it never has. And certainly with this situation, it just, to use an already overused term, but it's more true than anything, but the perimeter is blown way out. It doesn't exist anymore. But just SonicWall's ability to adapt and be flexible and be malleable to the different environments and to work, to play nicely with all of the different applications that we know are in play and things in and out of the environment's control is, it's been the perfect tool in our toolbox, obviously, since we opened the doors, especially in K-12 and higher ed.
Outstanding.